guys, this is your strategy consultant and mentor Prashant A U. This is the third part in the product management series, specifically 5 stages of design thinking. I hope you guys have enjoyed the first 2 parts. In case if you have missed it, you can always go back to the playlist and please go through it before beginning with this session. In our previous 2 parts, we have covered a brief background of design thinking. Why do we need design thinking? What are the advantages or benefits of design thinking? And a brief introduction on the design thinking model. In this final and concluding part, what we are going to cover is shown on your screen. We'll run through each of the different stages of design thinking. To begin with, empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test, and at the end of this session we will be covering a few case studies. So let's begin our journey. The first stage in the 5 stages of design thinking is empathize. As mentioned in the previous parts, design thinking is all about thinking about the product, keeping in mind the user at the center. So it is supposed to be a human-centered design, and the first step to do this is empathize. And in empathy, what needs to be done is this is basically putting yourself in the user's or the buyer's shoes. It is the foundation of a human-centric design process, and it involves observing, engaging, and immersing with the users. One needs to view users and their behavior in the context of their lives, interact with users through both scheduled and intercept encounters, and also experience what your user experiences. One simple example that I can think of is that almost every other car which has a top door model, that is wherein the side doors don't open this way but they open upwards. Such kind of models have failed disastrously, except maybe if you're into high-end models like Lamborghini, etc. Otherwise, this kind of a door has never worked for the general or the average consumer in the market. Reason being, the parking space that is needed for the doors to open, that is too large, and most of the consumers of vehicles are those who stay in populated, highly dense urban cities. So if you don't put yourself in the user's shoes, even if you design one of the best products in the world, it will most possibly fail. So how do we go about empathizing with the users or the buyers? Few tools are listed on your screen right now that include developing personas, preparing empathy map, and user journey mapping. Each of these has its own focus, purpose, and utility in the process of design thinking. In the case of developing personas, personas are basically fictional profiles representing a particular group of people or your rather target segment. They can be defined as a host of key characteristics like age, gender, location, goals, pain points, purchase history, etc. And mind you, this is not just about consumer insights or data analytics. It goes beyond that. When you develop a persona, you are trying to visualize a real person who could be a potential buyer or a user of your product. And when it comes to preparing an empathy map, it's basically about charting out the customer or user experience by what they see, hear, think, feel, say, and do. And the goal is to evaluate the pain points and the fulfillment of their goals. So this particularly helps in identifying the gaps in the market and in reality targeting what the user actually needs. And moving on, if we talk about user journey mapping, it is about understanding the overall ecosystem, scenarios, conditions, flow, and requirements of the user. The purpose is to ensure that the solution delivers an immersive user experience. So when we talk about a user journey mapping, it can be broken down into various stages, right from if you look at the from the marketing point of view, uh, the attention, uh, interaction, or if you look at a particular product point of view, it could involve about onboarding the user, the entire journey that the user has with your product. That is what is user journey mapping. On your screen, there's a famous quote by none other than Steve Jobs. Get closer than ever to your customers, so close, in fact, that you can tell them what they need well before they realize it themselves. So that's how deep you need to get into the mind of the user. And remember, there are no step-by-step methods or processes. This is just a rule of thumb. Once you have covered the empathize stage of design thinking, that means if you've done it in a proper and successful manner, that means you have already identified the problem or the gap. So next comes the define stage. In the define stage, what one needs to do is, once the problem has been identified in the previous stage, you need to come up with the possible viable or feasible solutions. It helps in decision making, where empowering team members to make decisions in accordance to the high level goals. It helps in generating alternative scenarios, fueling brainstorming sessions via how might we statements. As in, once you've identified a particular need of a user, you can visualize alternate scenarios as how might we fulfill this particular need of the user. Can there be more than one solution to it? That is what this is about. It also enforces commitment, complete involvement of all people involved with the hearts and minds. Remember, it's a team exercise and not an individual role. And finally, it helps in customization. Basically, what the product management team does here is develop solution concepts that are customer centric instead of a one size fits all approach. That's why the define stage is very critical in the some of the basic tools that can be used at the define stage are listed on your screen. They involve usability heuristics, which are nothing but general principles for user interface design. A similar example we spoke of in probably in part 2 of the series, wherein we spoke of the automated teller machine interface, or the screen that you see. The screen that a layman or a user, the end user, sees is very attractive and has a lot of navigational instructions, while the screen that a technician or an engineer who operates the machine has less of navigation, is not that attractive, but has more utility value. So this is one example of usability heuristics. Next is the UI or UX design, that is user interface or the user experience design. These are nothing but guidelines to explore the dialogue between products, people, and contexts. That is, it's all about the interaction of all these three things or factors. For example, if you develop a product that is highly complicated to use, the user might eventually dislike it and not buy it at all. And last but not the least, one of the most popular tools is JTBD, or jobs to be done. This concept was proposed by Professor Christensen at the Harvard, and this involves it's basically an invaluable method to address the root of customer behavior. That is, you're not looking at the symptoms, but you're going at the root cause as to why a user buys a particular product, or what is the basic inherent need of a user which can be fulfilled by your product. That's what this is about. You can see one more quote on your screen. Very famous UX design guru Don Norman. He has quoted, "Good design is actually a lot harder to notice than poor design, in part because good designs fit our needs so well that the design is invisible. Now, this is a very, very deep statement. If you want to be very good at design thinking or designing and developing of products, you need to understand that every product that is popular, that has high sales, or a lot of users want to buy it, uh, the best part of it is the design is usually invisible. For example, if you look at the chair that you're sitting right now while watching this video, uh, if it is an ergonomically designed chair, or if it is very comfortable for you, you're going to miss the design aspect. You will only realize that something is missing if you're sitting in an uncomfortable chair, right? So that's what this quote points to. Now, we have come to the third stage of design thinking, which is ideate. Here, uh, once you have identified the problem and defined the solution, basically that's the what part. Uh, Now comes the how part of it. That is how you're going to do it, how you're going to meet the user requirements. That's what Ideate is all about. So when you've reached the third stage of the design thinking process, that is Ideate, uh, there are various tools and methods that can be used, like the brainstorming method, the Oracle of Delphi method. Uh, there are various other frameworks like the 5I framework. In fact, in the 5I framework, the entire process begins with this Ideate. But as far as design thinking is concerned, in Ideate, what we need to do is we need to incorporate innovation, we need to excel in whatever we do, we need to adapt to changing circumstances, and we also need to scan or do a kind of horizon scanning about what are the other possible uh, available and feasible options. Uh, so in the Ideate stage, what we basically go about doing is we need to step beyond the obvious solutions to increase the potential of your solution set. Mind you, every problem can have more than one solution, and that's what innovation is all about. And we also need to harness the collective strength and expertise of our teams. So everyone may not be an all-rounder. We have uh, we can have very good designers, we can have very good developers, we can have very good technical people, we can have very good people with management and business skills. So the collective expertise of the entire team needs to be utilized in the process of designing and developing a product. So that's what excelling is all about. And we also need to create volume and variety of our options. We simply can't propose a standard kind of a solution and then try to push it down the throat of the consumer. So that's what adapting is all about. And last but not the least, we also need to uncover unexpected areas of exploration. Uh, that is what Ideate is all about. Trying to find what is actually missing. What does the market need? What does the user need? How to fulfill it in a very unique manner. Now, the Ideate stage is such a humongous process that it's difficult to cover in such a short session. But there are a few tools to give you ideas that is listed on the screen right now. Uh, Depending on your particular focus or the purpose of ideation uh, in the process of design thinking. Uh, there's something called as concept mapping. We have process flow diagrams. There are visual designing tools and methods. So each of these have a separate purpose and a different goal in the product design and development process. Concept mapping is basically nothing but drawing up the basic outline or the game plan. For example, lining up of your players across a football field along with maneuvers to achieve the next goal. Uh, a process flow diagram is nothing but charting out sequential steps to execute your goal. And for example, planning your chess moves to achieve check and mate eventually. And visual designing is all about avenues for design reuse, layout, typography, contrast, etc. Using psychology. Mind you, psychology is at the base of design thinking because it's all about your mind. And an example here would be painting of a house via the use of color theory. Uh, Another example is this color theory is used in the designing of websites. I mean, we encounter maybe several or hundreds of websites every day, week, or month. And each website has its own unique theme, layout, design, style, and there are certain colors that are uh, used on the website to attract a particular kind of audience for a particular kind of subject matter. And likewise, there are various other numerous tools for the ideation stage. What you can see on the screen right now is a quote from Jeff Raskin. As far as the customer is concerned, the interface is the product. What is meant by this is you can choose to have a cup of tea in a small nearby local shop, probably in disposable cups, obviously in the post-COVID era. Or you can also opt to have a similar cup of tea in an upmarket, probably a five-star restaurant or lounge, where you'll be served a cup of tea in a nice tray, in a beautiful teapot and a ceramic cup, or even better, maybe a silver cup. So, what matters here, irrespective of the core product, is the overall interface. It is the interface that creates the value in the mind of the customer. So, you need to think about it in the ideation stage. Once you have completed the ideation stage, uh, the next what follows is the prototype stage. What one needs to do here is once most of the things are finalized, before you actually start building the MVP or the minimum viable product, you need to create a prototype to see how does it look, feel, hear, work, or function. That's what prototyping is all about. In this stage, it's all about which way to do it. It's basically a simulation of the final interaction between the user and the interface. And there are different types of prototyping, like high fidelity, low fidelity, rapid prototyping, etc. Hi-fi prototyping is nothing but a pilot production of the MVP or the minimum viable product. Low-fi prototyping is there are different ways of doing it. One of them is paper prototyping or creating a clickable wireframe. There are so many tools available these days to do that. And rapid prototyping is all about exploring, validating, proving, and communicating uh, the final functioning or utility of your product to your team within the organization, and to, at times with the users too, if you are going ahead with the A/B testing. There are some of the tools that you can use during prototyping listed on the screen right now, like CAD/CAM. It's nothing but computer-aided design or manufacturing. For example, preparing a mold or die using machining tooling. Then you have wireframing and mockup when it comes to especially software products, apps, applications, etc. It's about designing a framework that works like, looks like, or feels like the real product or solution. It can be applied to even hardware products. Example, sculpting a mannequin with sample cloth to give the user a look and feel of how that particular cloth would look if they were to wear it. Uh, and even pen and paper. It's easy, quick, and used in early stages. This is an example of lo-fi prototyping. So there are many more methods of prototyping, but these are the few basic and most popular ones that have been covered here on the screen right now. You can see one more quote from Jacob Nielsen on your screen. He says, the more users' expectations prove right, the more they will feel in control of the system and the more they will like it. You need to understand this in terms of games. If you have been a gamer, or if you have seen how gamers behave, how do they get addicted to the product, that is a clear-cut example of what is meant by Jacob Nielsen here. Games are built and designed in such a way that the expectation of the gamer are usually proven right, and the gamer usually feels more in control throughout his or her interaction uh, with the game, and thereby this leads uh, the gamer to get involved in the game and feel more connected, and eventually they end up getting addicted to the games. That's what is meant by Jacob Nielsen here. Your product needs to be something like that. This stage is the test stage, which is naturally sequential to the prototyping stage. Once you have developed your prototype or pilot, you obviously need to test it as to how it's actually going to perform uh, eventually. This is the last and final stage of design thinking, testing. It's all about when and where to do it. The primary objective is to improvise the solution. Uh, is there something more that we can add to it? Is there a feature here or there that we are missing, which we can incorporate into the MVP before the product is finally released into the market? So it's about refinement, refining your point of view, prototypes and solutions via feedback. It's about gaining insights, being insightful, uh, wherein it's another opportunity to build empathy and gain unexpected insights, especially when you're doing it within your team or organization, or even going for A and B testing. And last but not the least, it's about continuous improvement. Sometimes it provides a platform for addition of features in your next release. In the testing stage, depending on the type of product, the nature of your industry or your domain, there are different methods and tools available. Some of the most popular or common ones are listed on your screen. There's A and B testing, which is basically in-house testing before release, or focus group testing post-release. It could also be testing of two or more variations of the same solution. There's also something called as cohort analysis, where the user engagement is tracked over a period of time, and obviously this is done in real time. There's something called as funnel analysis, where you visualize steps needed to complete a task by your users and their success rate. This can be done, this is very similar to, if you look at the retail market, there are people called as mystery shoppers, or a concept called as mystery shopping, where random people, users or customers are selected and provided a kind of lottery or a voucher, using which they can go ahead and shop whatever they want in a particular retail outlet, and then their feedback is collected. That's a type of funnel analysis. And last but not the least, analytics, which is basically a detailed analysis of the various parameters or metrics relevant to your business. It could be page views, bounce rates, click through in case of a website. And apart from this, there are many more tools that are available depending on your industry domains. There's one more quote here on your screen from Roger Martin. He says the two most fundamental strategic choices are deciding where to play and how to win. That basically sums up all the 5 stages of design thinking. I hope it's been good so far. Now what we're going to cover is a few case studies so that you can actually understand and apply this concept of design thinking in your own product development and design process. You can see my quote on the screen. It is wiser to learn from failures than success stories. Why I'm saying this is, you can find lots of case studies if you just Google it online regarding design thinking or any other subject for that matter. And most of these case studies are basically success stories. I personally believe, in my 2 decades of experience, that one learns more from failures rather than success stories. And to prove my point, you can see there's an image on the screen right now. In fact, there are 2 images, one on the left hand side and one on the right hand side. Now, Within a glance, you can see the difference between the two images. Obviously, both of the images are mine. That is Prashant A U, your strategy consultant and mentor. Now, what is the basic difference that you see in both the images? If I have to use one of the images on a social network, probably a professional network like LinkedIn, which one would I choose? Obviously, the one on the right hand side, because it suits my professional image. Uh, it attracts positive comments, and I get connection requests from like minded people. If I choose to use the other one on the left hand side, uh, it may not be decent for a professional platform. It might attract negative comments, and I could get connection requests from non-associated set of people. So it's not about good or bad, right or wrong. I'm just giving a comparison of two different images for a specific purpose. Now, when it comes to learning about something, if I had presented the image on the right straight away, you would not have any option rather than to accept that yes, this image is good. Likewise, if I had presented the image on the left hand side first, many of you would not find any fault with that image unless given something else to compare it with. So the whole point that I'm trying to make here is that when you are met with the right options, right things, or right choices, there is very little learning that happens. It is only when things go wrong there is more learning. So it's always better to learn from failures than success stories. So I'm going to cover real world industry examples, two particular case studies. One is about the very popular breakfast brand Kellogg's, its initial failure and success in the Indian market. And the other one is about Blackberry, which was the first smartphone that served as the original status symbol, and why such a successful brand ended up in a failure. Let's take up the first case study, Kellogg's. It's the world's leading producer of cereals that entered the Indian market way back in the 1990s, specifically 1994. The product was crispy flakes that was supposed to be eaten with plain cold milk, as it is done in the Western world with the consumers over there. So why did it fail in India? The reason being, Indian consumers were habituated to having sweetened hot milk instead of plain cold milk. Their bland of the bland bowl of cornflakes was not palatable for Indians who already had a wide variety of breakfast items that were flavored. For example, parathas if you're a North Indian, vadas, upma if you're from the west or south of India, pickle, chutneys, etc. Kellogg's offered a product that failed to match the local breakfast habits and expectations, and at twice the price of local competitors. They made the mistake of thinking that what worked in the international market would work in India. That was their biggest mistake. So, in terms of design thinking, what they failed to recognize or do is empathize with the specific users or their target segment, that is India. So what they did is they did their own introspection and thorough research on the market. They initially launched wheat flakes and basmati rice flakes that were not much successful. And then they launched Frosties, which is basically a sweet sugar-coated flakes in 1997, and were surprised by the success. Now, I'm not sure whether they used design thinking as a tool, but whatever tool they used, you can relate it with the different stages of design thinking. They did try to empathize initially with the typical Indian consumer and launched basmati rice flakes. Basmati being very much Indian kind of a staple food, but it failed probably because they did not focus much on ideation. They didn't look for alternative solutions. But when they did that, they came up with Frosties, and then which was a huge success. So, how did they achieve this success after a revised strategy? Number one, they localized their flavors. Two, they accommodated local accompaniments like curd, pistachio, mango, and banana puree. Uh, Third, they localized the packaging too. For example, Shakti for iron fortified products. Fourth, their entire branding and advertising was localized. Example, the use of a Kathakali dancer or a typical Indian mom. You people must have seen those advertisements. Number five, they reduced their packaging sizes as well as the prices to suit the tummy and the pockets of the average Indian consumer. And number six, they removed that nutritious marketing tag, which earlier implied that Indian breakfast is not nutritious. So that was very wise of them to do this. Now let us look at our second case study, Blackberry. I personally myself have been a Blackberry fan and user. So let's look at the particulars. Blackberry 7200 series. It was the first model which itself became iconic. Yes, the technical guys would say there was one more model prior to this, but that was not so popular. But this was the most popular iconic model that was launched both in India and the international market. Then there were so many features that BlackBerry phones introduced into this mobile phone market. It had the original mindless scroll. If you remember the small ball at the center of the keypad. It had the first or original social network, which is the BlackBerry Messenger or BBM, with read receipts. It was the first mobile to offer Bluetooth in the BlackBerry 7290 model. It was the first mobile to offer wireless LAN 802.11b bandwidth in the BlackBerry 7270 model. It was the first mobile with the QWERTY keyboard. That's one of the main reasons why it became so popular with business and professional users. It was the first mobile with LED flash for new message arrival. And if you look at a few other models like BlackBerry Bold 9000, it was a premium device with a leather back. The BlackBerry Passport model still holds the record for longest battery capacity of 30 hours. Now, what was their reason for success initially? Their user experience focus. They were focused on the business and professional usage market. They were too much focused on privacy. They were able to quickly address end user pain points, and obviously they followed an innovation first principle. So let us see what actually went wrong. BlackBerry, a brand so ubiquitous to Wall Street and Capitol Hill and all the corporate circles that it was nicknamed as Crackberry. So why did it disappear? Let's look at each of the reasons. Number one, it failed to keep up with the competition, with Apple and Android devices innovating at a faster rate and releasing newer models every other day. So it failed to keep up with the market competition. It couldn't adapt to changing markets, that is the smartphone revolution. You see, if we look at just a decade back, smartphones were not the norm, and today you can't think of a mobile device which is not a smartphone. BlackBerry failed to address the changing consumer behavior. That is, if you compare the touchscreen models with their typical or favorite or trademark QWERTY keyboard, they never gave way for it. Then they also did the mistake of innovation going wrong. It's not that they did not innovate, they were very innovative in their products initially. But what went wrong is the BBM or the BlackBerry Messenger was locked to the hardware at a time when cross-platform messaging like WhatsApp was growing and catching up on in the market. And there were also certain wrong financial and technical decisions which we're not going to cover here because it's not part of product management. So that's one of the major reasons why a brand like Blackberry or Crackberry eventually failed. So far, so good. Uh, that concludes the entire program on the 5 stages of design thinking. Across 3 parts, we have covered the background of design thinking. Why do we need design thinking? The advantages of design thinking. Then we ran through the design thinking model. And in this part, we have covered the 5 different stages of design thinking, that is empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test, and also covered a few case studies. Hope you guys have enjoyed it, and please stay tuned. Please like, subscribe, and comment on my channel, and I'll be coming up with more such videos in the future. Take care. Bye.